The dust kicked up around Samantha Jenkins' boots as she dismounted her horse in front of the general store, her heart pounding not from the ride but from the argument she just had with her father about suitors waiting in their parlor back home. Lincoln, New Mexico Territory, 1878. The town still bore scars from the recent conflicts that had torn through it, but life continued with the stubborn persistence that defined the West. Samantha had ridden hard from her family's ranch on the outskirts, needing space to breathe, to think, to escape the suffocating expectations that seemed to close in tighter every day. She turned 22 without a husband. She tied her mare to the hitching post with practiced efficiency, her hands steady despite the turmoil inside. Her father had been clear that morning. 3 suitable men had expressed interest, all respectable, all established, all looking for a wife to manage their households, bear their children, and fade quietly into the background of their lives. The very thought made her chest constrict. "Easy there, miss. You are about to walk straight into that post." Samantha stopped short, blinking as she realized she'd been so lost in thought she hadn't been watching where she was going. She looked up to find a man steadying her elbow, his touch light but firm. He released her immediately, stepping back with an apologetic smile. "Sorry. Didn't mean to startle you. You just looked like you had the weight of the world on your shoulders and weren't seeing much else." She took in the stranger with a quick, assessing glance. Tall, probably in his mid-20s, with dark hair that needed a trim and eyes that held both kindness and something sharper, more observant. His clothing marked him as a working cowboy, worn but well-maintained, and he wore his gun low on his hip with the ease of someone who knew how to use it but didn't need to prove it. "I'm fine, thank you," she said, hearing the edge in her own voice and immediately regretting it. He'd done nothing to deserve her frustration. "I apologize, that was rude. You probably saved me from a nasty bruise." His smile widened, reaching his eyes. "No apology needed, we all have those days." "I'm Ryder Quinn, recently hired on at the Murphy Dahlan store as a hand, though I am hoping that is temporary." "Samantha Jenkins. My father owns the ranch west of town." Recognition flickered across his face. "Jenkins. Yes, I have heard the name. You run horses." "We do. Some of the best in the territory." There was pride in her voice now, the frustration momentarily forgotten. "I breed and train them myself, actually. My father handles the business side, but the horses are mine." Ryder's eyebrows rose with what seemed like genuine interest, rather than the polite skepticism she usually encountered. "That is impressive. Truly. I worked a horse ranch up in Colorado before drifting down this way. It is not easy work and it takes real skill to do it well." Something in his tone, the lack of condescension or surprise that a woman could manage such work, made Samantha relax slightly. "What brought you to Lincoln? Colorado is a long way from here." "Looking for something different, I suppose. A chance to build something of my own eventually." Lincoln seemed like a place where a man could make a fresh start, though I am learning the territory has its complications. His expression darkened slightly, and Samantha knew he was referring to the tensions that still simmered in town, the aftermath of violence that had left its mark on too many families. "It does," she agreed. "But there are good people here too, people trying to build something lasting." They stood there for a moment, an oddly comfortable silence settling between strangers who just met. Samantha found herself studying him more carefully, noting the way he carried himself with quiet confidence, the calluses on his hands that spoke of hard work, the directness of his gaze that suggested he saw more than most people did. "Well, I should let you get to wherever you were heading," Ryder said finally. "But if you ever need an extra hand with those horses, or if your father is looking to hire, I would be grateful for the opportunity. I have references, and I know my way around a stable." Samantha opened her mouth to give a polite dismissal, then paused. An idea was forming, still rough around the edges but gaining shape. Her father wanted her to marry, to settle down, to give up the work she loved. But what if she had help? What if she could expand the operation, prove that she could make it more profitable, more essential to the ranch's success? It wouldn't solve everything, but it might buy her time. "Come by the ranch tomorrow morning," she said, making the decision quickly before she could second-guess herself. "Early, around dawn. I'll talk to my father, but we could use someone who knows horses. If you are as good as you say, there might be work." His face brightened. "I'll be there." "Thank you, Miss Jenkins. You will not regret it." She watched him tip his hat and walk away, disappearing into the flow of people moving through Lincoln's dusty streets. Only then did she realize her heart had stopped its anxious pounding. For the first time that day, she felt like she could breathe. The ride back to the ranch gave her time to think about what she'd done. Hiring help wasn't unusual, but bringing someone new into their operation without thoroughly vetting him first would raise her father's eyebrows. Still, something about Ryder Quinn had struck her as trustworthy. Maybe it was the way he'd spoken about horses, with respect and knowledge. Maybe it was simply that he'd treated her as a person capable of serious work, rather than a decoration waiting for the right man to claim her. The Jenkins Ranch sprawled across a valley with good water and better grazing, the kind of land that men fought over and families built legacies on. Her grandfather had claimed it back in the 50s, carved it out of raw territory with determination, and not a small amount of luck. Her father, William Jenkins, had expanded it, made it prosperous. And Samantha, their only surviving child after her brother's death from fever 5 years ago, had poured her heart into the horses. She could see them now as she approached, a dozen mares in the near pasture with their foals, and beyond them, the stallions they kept separated in reinforced paddocks. Beautiful animals, strong and intelligent, bred for both stamina and speed. They were her pride, her purpose, and the thought of giving them up to become some man's wife made her feel physically ill. Her father was waiting on the porch, his expression unreadable. William Jenkins was a hard man, shaped by a hard land, but he'd never been cruel. Just practical in the way frontier life demanded. He loved his daughter, Samantha knew that, but he also believed in the natural order of things. Women married. They had children. They built families. That was simply how the world worked. "You left rather suddenly this morning," he said as she dismounted. "I needed to clear my head." "Those men came all the way out here to meet you, Samantha. It was disrespectful to run off." She led her mare toward the stable, not looking at him. "I did not ask them to come. You invited them. Because you are 22 years old and unmarried. People are starting to talk. You need a husband, someone to take care of you." "I take care of myself just fine." She began unsaddling the horse, her movements sharp with suppressed anger. "Better than fine. Those mares brought in more money last year than the cattle operation." "That is not the point." "Then what is the point?" She spun to face him, suddenly tired of biting her tongue. "That I am supposed to give up everything I have built here, everything I love. To become some man's property, to cook his meals and bear his children and forget that I ever had dreams of my own." Her father's face softened slightly, but his resolve did not waver. "Marriage does not mean giving up who you are, does it not? Name one married woman in this territory who has the freedom I do now. One who runs her own operation, makes her own decisions, comes and goes as she pleases." When he said nothing, she continued, her voice quieter but no less intense. "I have watched them, Father. I have seen how they disappear into their husbands' shadows, how their wants and needs become secondary, then forgotten entirely. I cannot do that. I will not. William sighed heavily, suddenly looking older than his 50 years. The world is not kind to women alone, Samantha. I will not always be here to protect you, to make sure you have a home and a livelihood. A husband would give you security. Or he would take everything I have worked for and call it his own by right of marriage. She finished with the horse, checking the mare's water and feed. I met someone in town today, a cowboy looking for work. He has experience with horses. I told him to come by tomorrow morning. Her father's eyebrows rose. You hired someone without consulting me. I am asking you to consult now. We need the help if we are going to expand the breeding program like we discussed. You said yourself, we are turning away buyers because we cannot meet the demand. It was a strategic argument, appealing to his business sense rather than her personal desires. She could see him calculating, weighing the costs against the potential profits. What is his name? Ryder Quinn. He worked a horse ranch in Colorado, said he has references. I will want to see those references, and I will want to watch him work before we commit to anything permanent. That is fair, Samantha agreed, relief washing through her. It was not a solution to her larger problem, but it was something. A step in a direction that felt right. That night, she lay in her narrow bed listening to the sounds of the ranch settling in for the night. The distant call of a coyote, the rustle of wind through the cottonwoods, the occasional nicker from the horse barn. These were the sounds of home, of the life she had built for herself in the spaces her father's traditional expectations had not quite reached. The thought of losing it, of being transplanted to some other man's ranch to live according to his rules and wishes, made her feel like she was suffocating. She thought about the 3 men who had come calling that morning. 2 ranchers and a merchant, all solid choices by conventional standards. One of the ranchers, David Miller, had been particularly persistent, making his interest clear through her father for months now. He was in his 30s, established with a good spread south of town. He'd also made it clear he expected a traditional wife, someone to manage his household and host his business associates. When he'd spoken to her directly that morning, he'd barely asked her a single question about herself, talking instead about his plans, his vision, his needs. The other rancher, Thomas Wade, was younger, closer to her own age, and seemed less rigid in his expectations. But there had been something in his eyes when he'd looked at her horses, a calculating gleam that suggested he saw them as assets to be acquired along with a wife. She'd heard he'd had some financial troubles recently. Marriage to the Jenkins' only daughter would solve those problems nicely. The merchant, Peter Harrison, ran the dry goods store in Lincoln and was pleasant enough. But he'd been clear about wanting a wife to help in the store, to take over the management so he could expand into other ventures. Another man looking for a business partner who came with the added benefits of marriage. None of them had asked what she wanted. None of them had seemed to care that she had dreams and ambitions beyond being someone's helpmate. She thought instead about Ryder Quinn, about the way he'd spoken of her work with genuine respect, the interest in his eyes that had not been about acquisition, but about shared passion. It meant nothing, she told herself. He was a drifter looking for work and she'd offered him a job. That was all. Still, as she drifted toward sleep, she found herself hoping he would actually show up in the morning. Dawn came with the gray light that turned the landscape into something between dream and reality, all soft edges and muted colors. Samantha was already in the barn, mucking stalls and preparing feed, when she heard the sound of hoofbeats approaching. She glanced out to see a lone rider coming up the road, and even from a distance, she recognized Ryder Quinn's silhouette. He arrived exactly at dawn, as she'd specified. That punctuality said something about him, she thought. He dismounted and led his horse toward the barn, waiting politely at the entrance rather than presuming to enter uninvited. "Good morning, Miss Jenkins. Samantha, please. If you are going to work here, formality seems excessive." She gestured him inside. "You can put your horse in the empty stall there. Water and feed are along that wall." She watched as he cared for his mount, noting the gentle efficiency of his movements, the way he checked the horse's legs and hooves, the quiet words he murmured. Good signs. A man who treated his own horse well would treat others the same way. "My father will want to speak with you," she said once he'd finished. "But first, I thought I would show you the operation, see what you think." She led him through the barn, explaining their breeding program as she went. They focused on a mix of quarter horses and Mustang blood, breeding for intelligence and endurance as well as speed. The horses that resulted were highly prized, able to handle the rough terrain and harsh conditions of the territory while still being responsive and trainable. Ryder listened intently, asking intelligent questions that showed he understood the complexities involved. When they reached the paddock where she kept her prize stallion, a magnificent bay with a black mane and intelligent eyes, he stopped and let out a low whistle. "That is a fine animal. Beautiful conformation, and look at those legs, built for distance." "That is Thunder," Samantha said, unable to keep the pride from her voice. "I raised him from a foal. He is the foundation of the whole program now. His offspring are what everyone wants." Ryder studied the horse with the eye of someone who truly understood what he was seeing. "I can see why. May I approach him?" "Go ahead." She watched as Ryder climbed the fence and dropped into the paddock, moving slowly and calmly. Thunder raised his head, ears pricked forward, alert but not alarmed. Ryder stopped several feet away, waiting, letting the horse make the decision to approach or not. Thunder took a few steps closer, nostrils flaring as he took in the stranger's scent. Then, apparently satisfied, he closed the distance and allowed Ryder to run a hand down his neck. "He is a good judge of character," Samantha said, impressed despite herself. Thunder was protective of his territory and did not usually warm to strangers so quickly. "If he likes you, that is a good sign. The feeling is mutual." Ryder's voice was warm with admiration as he continued stroking the stallion. "You have done incredible work here, Samantha. This is not just breeding horses. This is creating something special." His words struck something deep inside her, a recognition she had not realized she'd been craving. Her father appreciated the horses as valuable assets, but he did not understand them the way she did not see them as she did. To have someone else recognize what she was building, what she was creating, felt like validation she had not known she needed. "Thank you," she said quietly. "It means a lot to hear that." Their eyes met across the paddock and something passed between them, an understanding that went beyond words. Then Thunder nudged Ryder's shoulder demandingly, breaking the moment, and they both laughed. Her father appeared as Ryder was exiting the paddock, and Samantha made the introductions. William Jenkins was all business, grilling Ryder about his experience, his background, his intentions. Ryder answered everything directly and honestly, producing a letter of reference from his previous employer in Colorado that spoke highly of his skills and character. "The letter is dated 3 months ago," William observed. "What have you been doing since then?" "Traveling, mostly. Working odd jobs here and there, but nothing permanent. I wanted to take my time finding the right situation rather than jumping into the first thing available." Ryder's gaze was steady, unflinching. "I am not afraid of hard work, Mr. Jenkins, and I am not looking to cause trouble. I just want a chance to prove myself." William studied him for a long moment, then glanced at Samantha. She kept her expression neutral, but something of her hope must have shone through because her father sighed. "We will try you out for a week. Basic pay, room in the bunkhouse, meals with the other hands. If you work out, we will talk about something more permanent. Fair, more than fair." "Thank you, sir. You will not regret it." Samantha felt a rush of relief and tried not to examine too closely why this mattered so much to her. It was just about having good help, she told herself. Nothing more. The days that followed proved Ryder's worth quickly. He was up before dawn, working until after dusk, and he had a natural way with the horses that reminded Samantha of her own approach. Firm but gentle, patient but confident. The other hands, an older man named Joe and two younger cowboys named Pete and Lewis, accepted him easily, drawn by his willingness to work and his lack of pretension. But it was in the training ring that Ryder truly excelled. Samantha was working with a young mare, trying to accustom her to a saddle, when the horse spooked at a sudden noise and reared. Samantha kept her seat on the fence but dropped the lead rope, and the mare bolted toward the open gate. Ryder was there in an instant, moving faster than she would have thought possible. He caught the trailing rope and immediately began working to calm the frightened animal, his voice low and soothing, his movements slow and non-threatening. Within minutes, the mare had settled, her trembling easing as Ryder continued his quiet reassurances. "Easy now, girl. Nothing to be afraid of. You are safe. Easy now." Samantha hopped down from the fence and approached slowly. "Nice catch. I thought she was going to be halfway to Mexico before we got her back. She just got scared. Cannot blame her for that." He handed Samantha the rope, his fingers brushing hers briefly. "Want me to hold her while you try again with the saddle?" They worked together for the next hour, moving in sync as if they'd been partners for years rather than days. Ryder seemed to instinctively understand what Samantha needed, anticipating her movements, supporting without taking over. By the time they finished, the mare was accepting the saddle calmly, and Samantha was acutely aware of how natural it felt to work alongside him. "You have a gift," she said as they walked back toward the barn, the mare trailing docilely between them. "The horses trust you." "I just listen to what they are telling me. Animals are honest. They do not hide what they feel or pretend to be something they are not." He glanced at her. "I appreciate that about them. As opposed to people, people are more complicated. They want things, and those wants make them act in ways that are not always straightforward." He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "Take those men who came calling the other day, for example." Samantha stiffened. "You heard about that small town. People talk, especially in the bunkhouse. I hope I am not overstepping, but from what I understand, they were here to court you. My father invited them. He thinks I need a husband." The bitterness in her voice was sharper than she'd intended. Ryder was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke, his tone was thoughtful. "Can I ask you something? And please tell me if I am out of line. Go ahead. Why does the idea of marriage bother you so much? I mean, I can see you are not interested in those particular men, but is it them specifically? Or is it the whole concept?" It was a fair question, more fair than she wanted to admit. They reached the barn and began untacking the mare, and Samantha found herself answering honestly, perhaps because he'd asked with genuine curiosity rather than judgment. "It is the whole concept, at least as it exists in this world. Marriage for a woman means giving up everything. Your property becomes your husband's property. Your choices become his choices. Your dreams and ambitions become secondary if they matter at all." She worked as she spoke, her hands moving automatically through familiar tasks. "I have built something here, Ryder, something that is mine. The horses, the breeding program, all of it. The moment I marry, it stops being mine. It becomes his whoever he is, and I become his too in every way that matters legally and socially. That does not seem right. Right or not, that is how it is. The law gives husbands control over their wives and anything the wives own. I have heard stories, seen it happen. Women who had businesses or property before marriage, only to have their husbands sell it out from under them, or run it into the ground, or simply take it over and push them aside. She turned to face him. I will not let that happen to me. I cannot. Ryder met her gaze, and she saw understanding there, not the dismissive amusement or patronizing sympathy she'd encountered from others. So you have decided never to marry. I have decided I would rather be alone than lose myself. That is not the same thing, though, is it? When she frowned in confusion, he continued. Being alone versus losing yourself, those are two different problems. What if you could have both? Someone to share your life with, but without giving up who you are. That is a fantasy. It does not work that way. Maybe not usually, he conceded. But that does not mean it could not. The world is changing, Samantha. Slowly, yes, but changing. And even now, there are different ways to live if people are willing to be unconventional. She wanted to dismiss his words as naive optimism, but something in his tone stopped her. He was not arguing with her or trying to convince her she was wrong. He was simply offering a different perspective, a possibility she had not considered. You are a strange man, Ryder Quinn, she said finally. He grinned. I will take that as a compliment. Over the following weeks, Ryder became an essential part of the ranch's operation, and Samantha found herself spending more and more time working alongside him. He proved to be not just skilled but genuinely passionate about the horses, often staying late to check on a mare preparing to foal or spending his rare free hours studying the breeding records Samantha had meticulously maintained. But it was not just the work that drew her. It was the conversations, the way he listened when she talked about her plans and dreams, the way he asked questions that showed he was really hearing her. They would stand in the barn as twilight fell, discussing bloodlines and training methods and the possibility of expanding into breeding pack horses for the mining operations up north. And Samantha felt more seen, more understood than she had in years. She caught herself watching him sometimes, admiring the easy strength of his movements, the way his face lit up when he smiled, the kindness in his eyes when he dealt with a difficult horse or a struggling foal. He was handsome, she acknowledged to herself, but it was more than that. There was something about him that made her feel safe in a way that had nothing to do with physical protection and everything to do with being accepted exactly as she was. It was dangerous territory, and she knew it. Letting herself feel anything beyond professional respect for Ryder Quinn was asking for heartache. He was an employee, a drifter who might move on at any time. More than that, allowing herself to care about him would only complicate the situation with her father, who was growing increasingly insistent about the need for her to choose a husband. David Miller had continued his courtship despite her lack of encouragement, stopping by the ranch regularly with flowers or small gifts, always proper and always persistent. Her father approved of him, encouraged her to give him a chance, to see past her resistance to what he called a good match. He is established, Samantha. He has land resources, a solid reputation. You could do far worse, William said one evening after Miller's latest visit. I am sure I could also do far better, she replied. You are being stubborn. I am being honest. I do not love him. I do not even particularly like him. Love grows over time with respect and partnership. Does it? She looked at her father directly. Did you love Mother when you married her? William's expression softened, pain flickering across his features. Her mother had died giving birth to Samantha, a loss that still shadowed her father after all these years. I did. Very much. But I also know I was fortunate. Not everyone gets that kind of love, Samantha. Sometimes you build a life together and find contentment, and that is enough. It would not be enough for me. She left before he could respond, needing air, needing space. She found herself walking toward the horse barn, drawn by the comfort she always found there. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, and the evening air carried the scent of hay and horses and the distant sage. Ryder was in the barn, as she'd somehow known he would be, checking on a mare that was close to foaling. He looked up as she entered, and his welcoming smile faded when he saw her expression. "Bad evening. My father is pushing David Miller again. The rancher who keeps coming around." Ryder's tone was carefully neutral. "The same. He thinks I should marry him, settle down, accept that this is as good as my life is going to get." She leaned against the stall door, watching the mare shift restlessly inside. "Maybe he is right. Maybe I am being unreasonable, holding out for something that does not exist. Or maybe you are being brave enough to refuse something that is not right for you." Ryder came to stand beside her, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. "There is nothing wrong with knowing what you want and refusing to settle for less. Even if what I want is impossible." "What do you want, Samantha?" It was a simple question, but it struck her with unexpected force. What did she want? She'd been so focused on what she did not want, on fighting against the expectations and limitations others tried to impose, that she had not let herself fully articulate the alternative. "I want this," she said slowly, gesturing to encompass the barn, the ranch, the life she'd built. "I want to keep doing the work I love, building the breeding program, making my own decisions, but I also want—" She paused, suddenly vulnerable. "I want someone to share it with. Someone who sees me as a partner, not a possession. Someone who values my dreams as much as his own. I want love, real love, the kind where you make each other better rather than smaller." "That does not sound impossible to me." She turned to look at him and found his eyes already on her, warm and intense in the fading light. "Does it not?" "Not at all." He reached out slowly, giving her time to step away, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "In fact, it sounds exactly right." Her breath caught. They were standing very close now, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes, close enough to feel the pull between them like a physical thing. For weeks she'd been telling herself that what she felt was just respect, just appreciation for a fellow horse enthusiast. But that was a lie, and she'd known it. "Ryder," she whispered, not sure if it was a warning or a plea. "Tell me to stop and I will," he said quietly. "Tell me you do not feel this too, and I will step back, keep things professional, never mention it again." But she could not say those things because they would be lies, and she'd never been good at lying. So instead, she rose up on her toes and kissed him, tentative and uncertain and absolutely sure all at once. He responded immediately, his arms coming around her to pull her closer, one hand cradling the back of her head while the other pressed against her lower back. The kiss deepened, and Samantha felt something unlock inside her, a tightness she had not realized she was carrying suddenly releasing. This, she thought hazily. This was what it was supposed to feel like. Not a business transaction or a social obligation, but genuine connection, desire, the sense of coming home to something you had not known you'd been missing. They broke apart finally, both breathing hard, and Ryder rested his forehead against hers. "I have wanted to do that for weeks," he admitted. "Only weeks. I have wanted it since the day I met you." The confession surprised her with its honesty, but she did not take it back. It felt good to be honest, to not hide what she felt. "Samantha, I need you to know something." Ryder pulled back slightly so he could look at her properly. I am not like those other men. I do not want to own you or control you. What you have built here, what you are doing with the horses, it is amazing. It is part of who you are. I would never want you to give that up. What are you saying? I am saying that if, someday, you decided you wanted more than just working together, if you wanted something more personal, it would not have to mean losing your freedom. His hands moved to cup her face, his touch gentle. I want you to soar, Samantha. I want to help you build your dreams, not tear them down. We could be partners, real partners in every sense of the word. Tears pricked her eyes, unexpected and overwhelming. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. No one had ever suggested that marriage could be something other than surrender. How would that even work? She asked, her voice unsteady. The law would not recognize that kind of partnership. The moment we married, everything I have would legally become yours. Then we would put it in writing, draw up papers that protect your interests. I do not care about the letter of the law. I care about doing right by you. His thumbs brushed away the tears that had spilled over. I am not asking you to marry me tonight, Samantha. I know we need time. But I am asking you to consider the possibility. To not shut the door on something that could be good just because you are afraid of what it might cost. She kissed him again, pouring all her hope and fear and desperate longing into it. When they separated, she was shaking, overwhelmed by the enormity of what was happening. I am afraid, she admitted. I am terrified of wanting this, of trusting you and then losing everything anyway. I know. And I cannot promise that nothing will ever go wrong or that we will not face challenges. But I can promise that I will fight for you, for us, for the life you want to build. Every single day. They stood together in the barn as full darkness fell, the mare shifting peacefully in her stall behind them, and Samantha let herself imagine it. A future where she did not have to choose between love and freedom. A partnership built on mutual respect and shared dreams. It seemed too good to be true, but looking into Ryder's eyes, she found herself beginning to believe. The weeks that followed were both wonderful and complicated. Samantha and Ryder continued working together during the day, maintaining professional boundaries in front of the other ranch hands and her father. But in the evenings, they would steal moments together, talking and planning and exploring this new territory between them. Ryder proved true to his word in ways that both surprised and delighted her. When she mentioned wanting to expand into pack horses for the mining operations, he did not just nod politely. He spent his evenings researching what miners needed in their animals, rode into Lincoln to talk to freight operators, and came back with detailed information about potential contracts and pricing. He treated her business as seriously as if it were his own, offering suggestions but never overriding her decisions, supporting her vision while adding his own insights. There is a mining outfit up near White Oaks that is looking to purchase 50 horses over the next year, he reported one evening as they sat on the fence watching the sunset. I talked to their purchasing agent. If we can deliver animals that meet their specifications, they will pay premium rates and spread the word to other operations. 50 horses, Samantha repeated, her mind already calculating what that would require. We would need to expand the breeding stock, bring in some draft horse blood for size and strength. I had the same thought. There is an auction in Santa Fe next month. We could look at bringing back a few good mares with the right characteristics. She smiled at him. You are planning to stay then? He turned to look at her, his expression serious. Samantha, I am not going anywhere, not unless you tell me to. This, he gestured to encompass the ranch, the horses, and most significantly, the two of them. This is what I have been looking for. A place to belong, work that matters, and someone to build a future with. Unless you have changed your mind. No, she said quickly. I have not changed my mind. If anything, I am more sure than I was before. You are not like anyone I have ever met, Ryder. You make me believe that maybe I can have everything I want. He leaned in and kissed her, soft and sweet in the fading light. You can. We can. Together. But not everyone was pleased with the developing situation. David Miller had noticed the way Samantha and Ryder interacted, the easy partnership between them, and his courtship had taken on a more determined, almost aggressive edge. He stopped by the ranch more frequently, bringing increasingly expensive gifts, making his intentions embarrassingly clear. I can offer you security, Samantha, he said during one particularly uncomfortable visit. An established home, connections throughout the territory, children who would inherit a substantial legacy. What can a drifting cowboy offer you? A man with no land, no money, no prospects beyond whatever work he can find. Samantha kept her temper with difficulty. Ryder is an excellent horseman and a valuable employee. What he has or does not have is none of your concern. It is my concern when I am trying to court you properly, and you are spending all your time with the hired help. Miller's voice hardened. Your father agrees with me. He has made it clear he favors my suit. Are you really willing to defy him for some cowboy who will likely move on the moment something better comes along? That is enough. You do not know Ryder, and you certainly do not know me if you think I make decisions based on what other people favor. She stood, making it clear the conversation was over. I appreciate your interest, Mr. Miller, but I have told you repeatedly that I am not interested in marriage at this time. I would ask you to respect that. Miller's jaw tightened, but he managed a stiff nod. I am a patient man, Miss Jenkins. I will wait. After he left, Samantha found her father in his study, and they had one of their most heated arguments yet. You humiliated a good man today, William said without preamble. David Miller is offering you everything a woman could want, and you dismiss him like he is nothing. He is not offering me what I want. He is offering me what he thinks I should want. There is a difference. And what do you want? To spend your life unmarried, working like a hired hand on your own property? To grow old alone because you are too stubborn to accept reality? I want to build something meaningful. I want to be valued for my abilities, not just my childbearing potential. And I want to marry for love, not convenience. She took a deep breath. Father, I know you mean well. I know you are trying to protect me, but you are going about it the wrong way. This is about Quinn, is it not? Her father's eyes narrowed. I have seen how you look at him, how you work together. Samantha, he is a good hand, but he is not husband material. He has nothing to offer you. He offers me respect, partnership, a chance to build something together without giving up who I am. She met her father's gaze steadily. I love him, Father, and he loves me. We have not talked about marriage yet, but if we do, I need to know you will support us. William was silent for a long moment, his expression unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice was tired. I am trying to protect you from making a mistake that will haunt you for the rest of your life, but you are so determined to have everything your way that you cannot see the risks you are taking. I see them clearly. I just believe some risks are worth taking. Her father shook his head, but his anger seemed to have faded into resignation. You are as stubborn as your mother was. She made up her mind about me within a week of meeting me, and nothing her family said could change it. I suppose I should not be surprised you are the same way. It was the first time in years he had volunteered information about her mother without being prompted, and Samantha felt her throat tighten. Did you ever regret it, marrying her despite her family's objections? Not for a single day. She was the best thing that ever happened to me. I just wish I had more time with her. His eyes grew distant with memory and grief. She was so excited when she found out she was pregnant with you. She'd already lost 2 babies before they quickened. When you were born healthy and strong, it was the happiest moment of my life. And then, 12 hours later, she was gone. I am sorry, Samantha whispered. She'd always known the basic facts of her mother's death, but her father rarely spoke about the emotional reality of it. It is not your fault. It was just bad luck, bad timing. The doctor said sometimes these things happen and there is nothing anyone can do. He looked at her directly. But I want you to understand something, Samantha. Childbirth is dangerous. Women die from it every day. If you marry, if you have children, you will be taking that risk. It is one of the many reasons I want to see you settled with a man of means, someone who can afford the best care, who has the resources to make sure you have every possible advantage. And you think Ryder cannot provide that. I think he is a good man with nothing but his skills and his ambitions. That may not be enough. Samantha understood her father's fear, even as she chafed against his conclusions. He had lost the woman he loved, and now he was trying to protect his daughter the only way he knew how. But his protection felt like a cage, and she could not accept it. I will be careful, father. And whoever I marry, if I marry, will be because I believe he will stand beside me no matter what comes. That is worth more than any amount of money. She left him there, knowing the argument was far from over, but needing space to process everything that had been said. She found Ryder in the training ring, working with a young gelding, and just watching him calmed something inside her. He noticed her and secured the horse before walking over, his expression concerned. "You look upset. What happened?" She told him about both conversations, with Miller and with her father, trying to keep her voice level and mostly succeeding. Ryder listened without interrupting, and when she finished, he was quiet for a moment. "Your father loves you," he said finally. "He is wrong about some things, but his heart is in the right place. He is scared. I know, but I cannot let his fear dictate my life." "No, you cannot." Ryder took her hand, his grip warm and solid. "But I understand where he is coming from. I do not have much, Samantha. I have some savings, my horse, my skills, and my word. If we did this, if we built a life together, it would be hard at first. We would have to work for everything we have." "That does not scare me. What scares me is not trying at all." He smiled, that slow, warm smile that made her heart skip. "Then we will try. We will work hard, save money, build the breeding operation until it is so successful your father cannot question it. And when the time is right, when we have proven we can make this work, I will ask you properly, with a ring and everything. I do not need a ring. Maybe not, but you deserve one. You deserve everything." He pulled her closer, wrapping his arms around her waist. "I meant what I said before, Samantha. I want you to soar. I want to be the person who helps you reach heights you never imagined, not the person who clips your wings." She kissed him there in the open, no longer caring who might see. Let her father know. Let Miller see. Let the whole territory understand that she was choosing her own path, making her own decisions, building her own future. The months that followed were busy ones. Word of the Jenkins breeding program spread, and orders began to pour in. The contract with the mining outfit in White Oaks alone required them to expand significantly, and Samantha found herself working from dawn to well past dusk most days. But she was happy, genuinely happy, in a way she had never been before. Ryder was beside her through all of it, his partnership everything he had promised and more. They rode to Santa Fe together for the auction, spending 3 days on the trail that let them talk about everything and nothing, their connection deepening with every conversation. They purchased 4 draft mares with excellent conformation, negotiating prices together and making decisions as equal partners. On their last night before returning home, they camped under the stars, and Ryder told her about his childhood. He'd grown up in Texas, the youngest of 5 children, and had learned horses from his father. But when his parents died within a year of each other when he was 20, the farm had been sold to pay debts, and he'd struck out on his own. I drifted for a few years, working different ranches, never quite finding a place that felt right, he said as they lay side by side, watching the vast expanse of stars overhead. I was starting to think maybe that was just how my life was going to be, always moving, never settling. And then I met you and suddenly everything made sense. You make it sound like fate, maybe it was, or maybe it was just incredibly good luck. Either way, I am grateful for it, for you. He turned his head to look at her. I love you, Samantha. I know we have not said it in so many words before, but I need you to know. I love you, and I am committed to building a life with you, whatever form that takes. Her eyes filled with tears, but they were good tears, happy tears. I love you too, so much it scares me sometimes. I keep waiting for something to go wrong, for you to change your mind or for circumstances to tear us apart. That is not going to happen. I am not going anywhere. He kissed her temple, gentle and reassuring. We are building something permanent, Samantha, something that will last. When they returned to the ranch with the new mares, her father was waiting. He inspected the horses thoroughly, asking detailed questions about bloodlines and cost and expected return on investment. But when he was done, he nodded slowly. You did well. These are quality animals. He looked between Samantha and Ryder, seeming to really see them together for the first time. You work well together. I can see that. It was not quite approval, but it was acknowledgement, and that felt like progress. The breeding program continued to expand, and with it, the ranch's reputation. By the time spring arrived again, nearly a year after Ryder had first come to work at the Jenkins ranch, they had contracts lined up for the next 2 years and a waiting list of buyers hoping for one of their horses. Samantha's days were full of work she loved, and her evenings were spent with a man who valued her for exactly who she was. It should have been perfect, and in many ways it was. But there were complications, tensions that simmered beneath the surface and occasionally boiled over. David Miller had finally accepted that Samantha was not going to marry him, but he had not done so gracefully. He spread rumors in town, suggesting that Samantha's relationship with Ryder was improper, that she was ruining her reputation and her family's standing. Most people ignored him, but the talk bothered her father, adding strain to an already complicated situation. Then there was the question of the future. Samantha and Ryder both knew they wanted to marry eventually, but the logistics were daunting. Her father would not willingly hand over control of the horse operation to Ryder, and Samantha understood his reluctance. As long as she was unmarried, she had at least some legal standing to manage what she had built. Once she married, everything became murky, dependent on her husband's willingness to honor whatever verbal agreements they made. We could leave, Ryder suggested one evening. They were in the barn, as they often were, ostensibly checking on the horses but really just stealing time together. Start our own operation somewhere else, build it from the ground up as equal partners. That would break my father's heart. This ranch has been in my family for almost 30 years. He expects me to carry it on. But can you do that if he will not let you run it your way? It was a fair question, one Samantha had been asking herself increasingly. Her father was not a young man anymore, and the ranch's future was uncertain. He'd begun making noises about wanting grandchildren, about the importance of legacy and continuity. But he still could not seem to reconcile his traditional expectations with the reality of who his daughter was. The tension came to a head one afternoon when a buyer came to look at horses, and assumed Ryder was the owner of the operation. It was an honest mistake. born of societal expectations that men ran businesses while women stayed in the background. But it ignited something in Samantha, all the frustration she'd been holding back suddenly finding an outlet. "I am the breeder," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut. "This is my operation. Ryder works with me, but these horses, this program, it is mine." The buyer, an older man from Texas, looked embarrassed. "My apologies, miss. I meant no offense. It is just unusual to see a woman running this kind of outfit. Perhaps it should not be unusual. Perhaps if more women were given the chance, you would find we are just as capable as men." The man ended up buying 3 horses, impressed by both the animals and Samantha's knowledge. But after he left, she found herself shaking with anger and something deeper, a profound weariness with constantly having to prove herself, with fighting battles she should not have to fight. Ryder found her in the barn, her head in her hands, and sat down beside her without speaking. After a few minutes, she leaned against him, drawing comfort from his solid presence. "I am tired," she said quietly. "I am tired of fighting, tired of defending my right to exist in a way that makes sense to me. I know. You could make this easier, you know. If we married, if you took over officially, people would stop questioning everything. They would deal with you and I could work in peace." "Is that what you want?" she sighed. "No, that would be giving up, accepting that the world is right and I am wrong. But sometimes I wonder if fighting is worth the cost." Ryder took her hand, lacing their fingers together. "I cannot tell you what to do. This has to be your decision, but I can tell you what I believe. I believe you are building something important, not just for yourself, but for other women who come after you. You are proving that women can do this work, can excel at it, can create businesses and legacies. Every time you refuse to step back to hide behind a man, you are making it easier for the next woman who wants to try. That is a lot of weight to carry. It is, and it is not fair that you have to carry it, but you are strong enough. I have seen it." He kissed her hand gently. "Whatever you decide, I am with you. If you want to marry and find a way to protect your interests legally, we will figure it out. If you want to wait, keep building until you are so established that no one can question your position, I will wait with you. And if you decide you do not want to marry at all, that you would rather maintain your independence and we can be partners without legal ties, I can accept that too. You would do that. Stay with me even if we never married, Samantha. I am not with you because I want a wife. I am with you because I love you, because you are the most remarkable person I have ever met, because my life is better with you in it. The form that takes, the labels we use, those things matter less to me than the reality of building a life together." She kissed him then, long and deep, pouring all her love and gratitude into it. When they broke apart, she felt steadier, more centered. She did not have all the answers yet, but she knew she did not have to figure everything out alone. The solution, when it came, arrived from an unexpected direction. A lawyer from Santa Fe came to Lincoln on business and stopped by the ranch to inquire about purchasing horses. His name was Mr. Patterson, and he was in his 50s, distinguished and well-spoken. Samantha showed him the available stock, and they struck up a conversation that ranged from horses to the law to the changing territory. "You have built an impressive operation here," Patterson observed. "It cannot have been easy being a woman in this business." "It has had its challenges," Samantha admitted carefully. She'd learned to be cautious about revealing too much to strangers. "I imagine one of the biggest challenges is the legal structure. As an unmarried woman, you have some autonomy, but it is limited. And if you married, you would lose even that unless you took steps to protect yourself." Samantha's interest sharpened. "What kind of steps?" Patterson smiled. "There are options, though they are not widely used yet. Prenuptial agreements, for instance, that specify what property remains separate. Or you could establish your horse operation as a formal business entity with legal ownership that persists regardless of your marital status. Can that really be done? I have heard that marriage laws override everything else. They do in many cases, but there are ways to structure things that provide protection. It requires careful drafting and often the willingness to fight for your rights in court if challenged. But it can be done, particularly in territories where the law is still being shaped rather than firmly established. He pulled a card from his pocket. If you are interested in exploring your options, I would be happy to discuss it further. I believe women should have the right to control their own property and businesses, regardless of their marital status. Samantha took the card, her mind racing. Thank you. I may take you up on that. That evening, she showed the card to Ryder, explaining the conversation. His eyes lit up with the same hope she felt. This could be the answer, he said. If we could structure things legally to protect what you have built, to ensure you maintain control even after marriage, would that address your concerns? Most of them, yes. Though I am sure my father would object to the very idea. Then we convince him it is the best option for everyone. The ranch needs continuity, and you are the one who can provide it. But you also deserve to have a life, to marry if you choose without sacrificing everything. Ryder took her hands. Samantha, I want to marry you. I want to stand up in front of everyone we know and declare that we are partners in every sense of the word. But I want you to want it too, without fear or reservation. If working with this lawyer can make that possible, then I think we should try. Over the next few weeks, Samantha met with Mr. Patterson several times, and Ryder accompanied her to the consultations. The lawyer outlined several options, explaining the benefits and limitations of each. The clearest path seemed to be establishing the horse breeding operation as a separate business entity, owned by Samantha, with her retaining full control regardless of any changes in her personal life. It will require your father's agreement, since the operation currently functions as part of the larger ranch, Patterson explained. But if he is willing to formally recognize that the horse breeding is your domain, your property, we can draw up papers that make that legal and binding. And if I marry, your husband would have no automatic claim to the breeding operation. It would remain yours to run as you see fit. You could, if you choose, grant him partnership or ownership stake, but that would be your decision, not something imposed by law. It was everything Samantha had hoped for, a way to have both security and freedom. The challenge now was convincing her father. She approached him carefully, choosing a quiet evening when they were both in good spirits. She laid out the proposal clearly, emphasizing how it would benefit the ranch as a whole while also protecting what she had built. You have always said you want me to carry on the family legacy, she said. This would ensure that happens. The horse operation would be formally established as Jenkins' property, unable to be claimed by any outside party. Even if I married someone you did not approve of, he could not take it. William listened thoughtfully, asking questions about the legal mechanics and the cost. And you want to do this because you are planning to marry Quinn? I am planning to marry Ryder, yes. But I want to do this regardless, because it is the right structure for the business. The horse breeding has become too significant to leave undefined. It needs its own identity, its own legal standing. You love him then? Quinn? I do, very much. He is a good man, father. He respects me, values what I have built, wants to help me make it even better. He is everything I could want in a partner. Her father was quiet for a long time, staring out the window at the ranch he had spent his life building. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. You remind me so much of your mother. She had the same fire, the same certainty about what she wanted. I fought her family to marry her, and I never regretted it. I suppose it would be hypocritical of me to deny you the same chance at happiness. Does that mean you will agree to the legal arrangements? It means I will review the papers your lawyer draws up, and if they protect the ranch's interests as well as yours, I will sign them. And it means I will accept Quinn as your husband, if that is truly what you want. He turned to look at her directly. But I want one thing in return. What? Marry here on the ranch. Let me see my daughter wed in her own home, surrounded by the land and the life we have built, and invite me to be part of whatever future you create, even if it looks different than what I imagined. Tears blurred Samantha's vision. Of course, Father, of course. They embraced then, really embraced, for the first time in what felt like years. The distance that had grown between them over the marriage question dissolved, replaced by understanding and mutual respect. The legal arrangements took several months to finalize, with Patterson working carefully to create documents that would hold up to scrutiny and challenge. By the time everything was ready, summer had arrived again, bringing with it the heat and brilliant skies that made the territory beautiful despite its harshness. Ryder proposed officially on a Sunday evening, taking Samantha riding to the high meadow that overlooked the ranch. The sun was setting, painting everything gold, and the horses grazed peacefully nearby as he dropped to one knee. Samantha Jenkins, you are the strongest, most remarkable person I have ever known. You have taught me what it means to truly support someone, to want their success as much as your own. I love you more than I knew it was possible to love another person. Will you marry me? Will you let me be your partner, your husband, your fellow traveler on whatever adventure comes next? He produced a ring, simple but beautiful, a gold band with a small diamond that caught the light. Samantha knew it must have cost him most of his savings, and the gesture moved her deeply. Yes, she said, her voice breaking with emotion. Yes, I will marry you. I will build a life with you. I will trust you with my heart and my future. He slipped the ring on her finger and stood, lifting her off the ground in his enthusiasm, both of them laughing and crying at once. When he set her down, they kissed as the sun completed its descent, the sky turning from gold to pink to deep purple. I have never been this happy, Samantha whispered against his lips. Neither have I, and this is just the beginning. They married 6 weeks later in September of 1879 on the ranch as her father had requested. It was a small ceremony, just family and close friends, but it felt perfect. Samantha wore her mother's wedding dress, carefully preserved for over 2 decades, altered slightly to fit, but still carrying the history and love it represented. Ryder wore new clothes purchased specially for the occasion, looking handsome and nervous and utterly happy. When the circuit preacher asked him to recite his vows, he spoke from the heart rather than following tradition. Samantha, I promise to stand beside you, never in front of or behind you. I promise to celebrate your victories as my own and to support you through challenges. I promise to value your dreams and help you achieve them, to be your partner in every sense of the word. I promise to love you, respect you, and encourage you to soar, today and every day for the rest of our lives. There was not a dry eye in attendance, including Samantha's. When it was her turn, she'd also prepared her own words. Ryder, you came into my life when I had convinced myself that independence and love were mutually exclusive, that I had to choose between freedom and partnership. You proved me wrong. You showed me that the right person does not limit you but expands your world, makes you braver and stronger and more yourself than you ever were alone. I promise to be your partner in all things, to support your dreams as you support mine, and to love you with my whole heart for as long as I live. They exchanged rings, simple gold bands that matched, and when the preacher pronounced them married, their kiss was sweet and full of promise. The celebration afterward was joyful, with music and dancing and food that the whole community had contributed. William Jenkins, who had been reserved in his congratulations at first, softened as the evening went on, especially after Ryder sought him out for a private conversation. "I want to thank you, sir, for trusting me with your daughter. I know it was not easy, and I know I am not who you would have chosen for her, but I will spend the rest of my life proving I was worthy of that trust." William studied his new son-in-law for a moment, then extended his hand. "You make her happy. You respect what she has built. That is what matters. Welcome to the family, Ryder." They shook hands, and the tension that had existed between them finally dissolved completely. Samantha and Ryder spent their wedding night in the small house that had been built for them on the edge of the ranch property, a gift from her father that provided privacy while keeping them close to the operation. As they lay together afterward, wrapped in each other's arms, Samantha felt a peace she had never known before. "You have any regrets?" Ryder asked softly, running his fingers through her hair. "Not a single one. You. Only that we did not meet sooner so I could have more years with you." She smiled and kissed him. "We have the rest of our lives. That will have to be enough." "It is more than enough. It is everything." The years that followed proved the wisdom of their choices. The horse breeding operation continued to thrive, expanding beyond anything Samantha had initially imagined. The legal structure Patterson had created meant she maintained full control, while Ryder served as her partner in practice, managing aspects of the business and contributing his expertise while respecting her ultimate authority. They worked together seamlessly, their different strengths complementing each other perfectly. Samantha had the vision and the breeding knowledge, while Ryder excelled at the practical logistics and the business relationships that kept contracts flowing. Together, they built a reputation that extended well beyond New Mexico territory, with buyers coming from as far as California and Texas to purchase their horses. Her father remained involved, but gradually stepped back, content to watch his daughter succeed in ways he had not quite understood before. He came to genuinely respect Ryder, appreciating how he supported Samantha without ever trying to overshadow her. 2 years after their marriage, Samantha discovered she was pregnant. The news brought joy mixed with fear, given what had happened to her mother. But medical care had improved in the intervening years, and Samantha had access to a skilled doctor from Santa Fe who made the journey to attend to her. The pregnancy was difficult, particularly in the final months, and there were moments when her fear threatened to overwhelm her. But Ryder was beside her through all of it, holding her hand, talking her through the panic, reminding her that she was strong enough for this too. Their son was born in the spring of 1882, a healthy baby with his father's dark hair and his mother's stubborn determination evident even in infancy. They named him William, after Samantha's father, who cried openly when he held his grandson for the first time. "He looks just like your mother," William said, his voice choked with emotion. "She would have been so proud of you, Samantha, of everything you have become." Motherhood brought new challenges, as Samantha struggled to balance the demands of caring for an infant with her commitment to the horse operation. But true to his word, Ryder was a full partner in parenting as well, taking shifts with the baby at night, changing diapers without complaint, and encouraging Samantha to take time for the work she loved. "You do not have to be just a mother," he told her during one particularly exhausting week when she was trying to do everything at once. "You can be a mother and a horse breeder and a businesswoman. You do not have to choose." "How did I get so lucky to find you?" she asked, leaning against him gratefully. I ask myself the same question about you every single day. They had 2 more children over the next 5 years, a daughter they named Elizabeth after Samantha's mother, and another son they named James. Each birth was nerve-wracking, but each time Samantha came through healthy and strong, and their family grew. The children grew up around the horses, learning to ride almost before they could walk, absorbing their parents' passion for the animals and the business. Young William showed particular promise, displaying an instinctive understanding of horses that reminded Samantha of herself at that age. The horse operation continued to expand, eventually becoming one of the most respected breeding programs in the Southwest. They added employees, built additional facilities, and established satellite operations in neighboring territories. Through it all, the legal structure Patterson had created held firm, protecting Samantha's ownership and authority even as the business grew beyond what anyone had initially imagined. David Miller, who had remained a thorn in their side for several years, eventually married a woman from Texas and moved away. The rumors and gossip he'd tried to spread faded, replaced by respect for what Samantha and Ryder had built together. Lincoln itself evolved around them, growing from a rough frontier town still recovering from violence into a more stable community. They became pillars of that community, known not just for their business success, but for their fair treatment of employees and their willingness to help neighbors in need. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Ryder surprised Samantha with a celebration that brought together everyone who had been part of their journey. Friends, family, business associates, and ranch hands past and present gathered to honor the couple and the partnership they had forged. As Samantha stood beside her husband, watching their children play with the other youngsters, her father chatting with old friends and the horses grazing peacefully in the distance, she felt overwhelmed with gratitude. "Thinking deep thoughts?" Ryder asked, slipping an arm around her waist. "Just reflecting on how different my life is from what I feared it would be. 10 years ago, I was convinced that marriage meant losing everything that mattered to me. And then you came along and proved that the right partnership makes everything better. You took a risk on us. I will never stop being grateful for that. We took a risk on each other," she corrected. "And we built something beautiful." He kissed her temple. "We did. And we are not done yet. There is still so much more to build, so many more adventures to have. Promise me something," she said softly. "Anything. Promise me you will always want me to soar, even when it is inconvenient or difficult. Promise me you will never stop seeing me as your equal partner." Ryder took both her hands, looking into her eyes with the same intensity he had on the day they met. "Samantha Quinn, I promise you that for as long as I draw breath, I will encourage you to reach for every dream, climb every mountain, and achieve every goal your remarkable mind conceives. You are not just my equal partner. You are my inspiration, my best friend, and the love of my life. I will never try to clip your wings. I will only ever want to help you soar higher." Tears streamed down her face, happy tears that she made no effort to hide. "I love you so much. I love you too. Forever." As the sun set over the ranch that evening, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and purple, Samantha stood surrounded by everything she had built, the horses she had bred and trained, the business she had created and protected, the family she had made with a man who understood that love did not mean possession, that partnership did not mean surrender, and that marriage, when done right, did not require anyone to sacrifice who they were. Her father, now in his 70s but still sharp and engaged, raised a glass to toast the couple. "To my daughter and my son-in-law, who proved that the old ways are not always the only ways. May your partnership continue to thrive, and may your children inherit your strength and wisdom." Everyone drank to the toast, and then William added more quietly, "And to my late wife, who would have loved to see the remarkable woman our daughter became. She would have been so very proud." The celebration continued late into the night, with music and laughter, and the kind of joy that comes from genuine community and connection. When the guests finally departed and the children were tucked into bed, Samantha and Ryder stood on the porch of their home, looking out over the land they had worked together. "You remember that first day in Lincoln?" Samantha asked. "When you stopped me from walking into that post? I remember thinking you looked like you had the weight of the world on your shoulders. I had no idea what was actually troubling you. I was running from the idea of marriage, from men who wanted to own me rather than know me. If someone had told me that within a year I would be married myself, I would have thought they were insane. And now I know that marriage is whatever two people make of it. It can be a cage or it can be a launching pad. With you, it is the latter. You gave me wings instead of chains." Ryder pulled her close and they stood together in comfortable silence, the kind of silence that comes from deep contentment rather than lack of words. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what? For seeing me. For valuing me. For wanting me to soar." She looked up at him, this man who had changed her life by simply being exactly who he was. "For loving me enough to let me be free. Loving you is the easiest thing I have ever done. Everything else just follows naturally from that." They went inside together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever the future held. Behind them, the horses settled in for the night, the ranch quiet under a blanket of stars. The life Samantha had feared she would have to sacrifice to marry was more vibrant than ever, strengthened rather than diminished by the partnership she had built with Ryder. She had thought marriage meant losing her freedom, surrendering her dreams to someone else's vision. But Ryder had shown her a different truth. The right partnership did not limit you. It expanded your world, multiplied your possibilities, gave you someone to catch you when you stumbled and cheer you on when you soared. And soar she had, higher and farther than she had ever imagined possible. Not in spite of marriage, but because of the extraordinary partnership she had found with a cowboy who understood that the greatest gift you could give someone was the freedom to be completely themselves. Years continued to pass, bringing the changes that time always brings. William Jenkins passed away peacefully in his sleep in 1890, surrounded by his family and content in the knowledge that his legacy was secure. Samantha grieved deeply, but found comfort in how her relationship with her father had healed in his final years, how he had come to not just accept, but celebrate the life she had chosen. The horse operation continued to thrive, adapting to the changing times as the century drew to a close. When automobiles began appearing in cities back east, Samantha and Ryder recognized that the market for horses would shift. They adapted, focusing more on pleasure horses and show animals rather than just working stock, and their ability to evolve kept the business successful. Their children grew into capable adults who shared their parents' values if not always their specific interests. William, the eldest, took naturally to the horse business and eventually became a full partner, showing the same innovative thinking and respect for the animals that had made his mother's reputation. Elizabeth proved to have a brilliant mind for business strategy and ended up managing the financial and marketing aspects of the operation. James, the youngest, surprised everyone by becoming a lawyer, inspired by stories of Mr. Patterson, and determined to help other women protect their property rights as his mother had done. All three children married for love rather than convenience, having grown up with the example of their parents' partnership as their model. They chose spouses who saw them as equals, and they built marriages based on mutual respect and shared dreams. Samantha and Ryder became grandparents multiple times over, delighting in watching their grandchildren grow up with the same freedom and opportunity their own children had enjoyed. They never pushed the grandchildren toward any particular path, encouraging them instead to discover their own passions and pursue them with dedication. On their 25th wedding anniversary, in 1904, the ranch held another celebration. The business had grown beyond anything Samantha had dreamed of when she first started breeding horses 3 decades earlier. They now had operations in 4 states, employed dozens of people, and had established a reputation that extended across the country. But more important than the business success was the life they had built together. A partnership that had weathered challenges and celebrated triumphs, that had grown deeper and stronger with every passing year. Do you ever look back and wonder what would have happened if you had made different choices? Ryder asked that evening as they watched the sunset from their favorite spot on the hill overlooking the ranch. Sometimes, Samantha admitted. I wonder what my life would have been like if I had given in to fear, if I had married David Miller or someone like him just to satisfy expectations. But mostly I am just grateful that I had the courage to wait for what I really wanted. And what was that? This. A partnership that made me stronger instead of smaller. A love that gave me wings. Ryder smiled, that same warm smile that had first caught her attention so many years ago. You always had wings, Samantha. I just made sure no one clipped them. We made sure together. That is what partnership means. They sat together as the sun completed its descent, their hands intertwined, their lives completely interwoven after 25 years of marriage. Around them, the ranch that had started as her family's legacy and become their shared creation continued its rhythms, horses moving in the pastures, employees finishing the day's work, their children and grandchildren going about their own lives. Samantha thought about the girl she had been at 22, frightened and angry, and convinced that maintaining her freedom meant staying alone. She wished she could go back and tell that girl that she was wrong, that the right person would never ask her to choose between love and independence, that true partnership enhanced rather than diminished who you were. But of course, that girl would not have believed it until she met Ryder and discovered the truth for herself. Thank you, she said, as she had so many times over the years. For what? He asked, as he always did. For everything. For seeing me when no one else did, for believing in my dreams. For building this life with me, for wanting me to soar. Always, he promised, kissing her hand, always and forever. As stars began appearing in the darkening sky, they made their way back down to the house, walking side by side as they had for 25 years, as they would continue for whatever time they had left. Their love story had defied the expectations of their era, challenged the limitations society tried to impose, and proven that with courage, determination, and the right partner, it was possible to have both freedom and love, independence and partnership, wings and a place to land. Samantha had thought marriage meant losing her freedom, but Ryder had taught her otherwise. He had shown her that the right marriage did not clip your wings. It helped you soar higher than you ever could alone. And in soaring together, they had created something extraordinary, a legacy that would endure long after they were gone. The horses they had bred would carry their genetics forward for generations. The business they had built would provide livelihoods for countless families. Their children would pass on the values they had learned, teaching their own children about partnership and respect and the courage to forge your own path. But most importantly, they had loved each other deeply, completely, in a way that honored who they both were. They had built a marriage that was truly a partnership of equals, where both could thrive without either being diminished. They had proven that love and freedom were not mutually exclusive, that the right person expanded your world rather than constraining it. As they reached their home and stepped inside together, Samantha felt complete. Her life had not been what she had expected or what society had prescribed, but it had been exactly right. She had soared, just as Ryder had always wanted her to, and she had done it with him beside her every step of the way. That was the greatest gift he had given her, and the one she had given him in return. Not the gift of possession or control, but the gift of partnership, support, and unconditional love. Together, they had built something beautiful, and together, they would carry it forward until the end of their days. The sun had fully set now, and the New Mexico night wrapped around the ranch like a familiar blanket. Inside the house, Samantha and Ryder sat together, still talking, still dreaming, still planning for the future even after 25 years of marriage. Because that was what true partnership meant. Not just surviving together but continuing to grow, to evolve, to reach for new heights. She had thought marriage meant losing her freedom. He had shown her it could mean finding wings. And together, they had soared.